And how are we doing, baseball fans and Red Sox fans? How are we doing? Welcome to another episode of the Believe in Red Sox podcast. We got a fun one today. We're talking some free agents, and who better to do it with than Ellis Burks. Ellis, man, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good, man. How you been?
Oh, man, it has been hectic. Obviously everyone here, you're on my channel, and we've been doing a lot of playoff content, and I'm tired. To be completely honest, I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
I've been churning out some content here in the last few days. I'm not gonna lie, I've had a couple of late nights this week. I'm pretty beat, but even with the playoffs, it's been exciting. I'm excited to talk about this one tonight. We've talked about the offseason a little bit in prior episodes, and I'm always excited and juiced up for the offseason.
Oh yeah.
How do you feel about the offseason? Just what are your general thoughts on the offseason?
Well, perfect time for the guys to just regroup. You had a long season. Now it's time to regroup. Time for the front office to get everything rolling, to reset for next season. I'm looking forward to see what the roster is going to look like next year. I'm looking forward to the additions, to the new players that are coming in, because there's going to be some players coming in.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's we've talked about this a little bit. We're going to dive really, into it tonight, but we've talked about how with this Red Sox offseason, it's going to be an important one. Just it feels like you're at a bit of a crossroads almost. We got some, big free agents here. Xander Bogaerts being the big one.
Yes.
Rafael Devers coming up on free agency after this year. We'll talk about him in just a second, but there's a lot of important moves here for the Red Sox, especially after not making the postseason. It's You went from the ALCS to no postseason. That's been a bit of a thing, a bit of a theme for the Red Sox going back for a while now. You have a good team, and then you go to last place. So Bloom, he's come in and he really wants to build a consistent team year in and year out. And this is going to be a big one because we got some big free agents. I actually wanted to ask you, as a player, when you've hit free agency before, what are your general thoughts going into free agency? Are you feeling like nervous, or are you just, you're feeling pretty relieved that the season is over? Like, what are your general thoughts on an off season as a free agent?
Well, as a free agent, first of all, you're happy that the season is over. You probably had a successful season if you're that concerned about, the upcoming year. Whenever I was a free agent, my agent and I talked more than we would ever talk during any other time. And, that was a good thing because he likes to keep you filled in on the interest, who's out there, the possibilities of new clubs, addressing you and courting you or whatnot. But, it's an exciting time. I mean, guys are looking forward to it. First of all, a lot of times they're big paydays for these guys. That's something that can be life-changing. And I'm sure they're going to take it one step at a time, and they're going to look to see what's best for them and their families.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned the agent. When you're a free agent and you have an agent, are you talking to that agent every day, or like kind of how does the communication work? I guess it also just depends. If you're Aaron Judge, you're probably getting phone calls left and right. But like, what is the general experience like as a player who like has an agent? Are they talking to them every single day, or could it be every other day, or how does that go?
Well, everything goes through your agent. You're not having organizations give you a call personally because, he runs that part of the whole deal. And, everything goes through him. I mean, that's what you're hired him for. You got him there to negotiate with other general managers, not only, the general manager of your particular club, but other teams as well. So, yeah, there's a lot of interest there. People are going to be coming at him or like Bogey. Or it's just going to be an exciting time for these guys. I mean, that's something that, as a player, you look forward to that.
Oh yeah, I can't even imagine. If I was a player like an Aaron Judge or a Xander Bogaerts. I mean, first off, obviously you're thinking about the moolah that you're going to be landing, but I can just see it. Also, just from another point of view too, I've mentioned this on streams before, and I want to get your thoughts on this as well. I would think as a player, you want to know where you're going to be going. Obviously, you want to know, you want a fair deal. Obviously, your value. But I would think as a player, you want to know where you're going to be living. You want to, what's going to be going on with, your housing situation. Like what's you're going to be, building a house in or whatever. Does a lot of that come into play, you think, as a free agent?
Well, as a free agent, you have to consider, you have to think about this. Your word is the final say. Okay. It's either, I'm just going to use Boston, for example, in New York. It's either going to be Boston, New York, San Francisco, whomever. But you're going to make that decision. It's not your agent's decision. You guys will talk about everything, every situation. Okay, this is what they offered. This is what this particular team offered year-wise and money-wise and all that stuff. But it's going to be up to that player to just finalize everything and say, hey, let's do this at this particular spot. Now, as far as the housing is concerned, once you ink that contract, once you sign on those dotted lines, you just say, hey, you and your wife, or you can just fly out to that particular city and look at different areas. Okay, is this something that we want to be involved with? This is an area we want to live in. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot easier being a free agent and going through this process opposed to getting traded in the middle of the season. And all of a sudden you have to go to a hotel for the first couple of weeks or whatever till you get your feet on the ground. Yeah, big difference.
So, I mean, every player, different situation involved. From your experience, what do you feel like it really comes down to? Does a player, I mean, again, it really just depends on the player, but do you think more of a player wanting to win, or it comes more into play, or do you think more of the family aspect comes into play more based off of your experience?
Well, based off my experience, when it comes to free agency, you're talking about what's the best fit for you and your family, because the money is going to be the same everywhere you go. Everyone is going to be bidding around that same area. So it really depends on the winning aspect. Are you looking for a team that's going to have an immediate chance to win? Are you looking to go to a club that's already won, in the past, and they're looking to rebuild to get back to the glory days or whatever? But, it's just a matter of what you and your family, that's a great time for you and your wife to just sit down and figure things out. And then, of course, you include your agent. Okay, this is what we've decided. We've narrowed it down to these 2 places. So let's eliminate everyone else. Just let them know thank you, but no thank you.
Yeah. I mean, definitely a lot comes into play when you're a free agent. I can't even imagine, having to go through that process. But we're going to talk about a lot of free agents here tonight, some Red Sox free agents, as well as some possible options for the Red Sox. What are some needs? But before we do get into everything, let's go over the sponsors really quick. Our sponsor for tonight's show is Bet Online. Basketball is back, everyone, and Bet Online remains your number one source for all your sports betting needs this season. You'll always find the latest odds, team matchup info, player news, and game trends at Bet Online. And as your continued source for all sports wagering information, BetOnline features live betting, free contests, and giveaways all season long. Always the fastest and easiest way to bet all your favorite sports and events, whether that's NFL, NBA, NHL, MMA, tennis, boxing, or even golf. Head to BetOnline to join and receive your 50% welcome bonus with your first deposit. Make sure to use the promo code BLEAV, BLEAV, to receive your rewards. BetOnline, where the game starts. And also on this channel, we have a couple of sponsors as well. SeatGeek, use my code HYDE, you get $20 off. Hey, you don't just got to use it for baseball games. I know we only have a few left here, but you can use it for basketball, football, whatever kind of a deal you can find. Make sure to use my code HYDE, $20 off. And also, speaking of sports betting, we are partners with Prize Picks over here. If you're tired of FanDuel, tired of DraftKings, you want to play against the system, you want to play some over-unders, go check out Prize Picks. Use my code GINGER. You get a 100% deposit match. All righty. Let's get to it, Ellis. We got a lot to talk about. I think the big one here, let's just go over a few of the Red Sox players here. I mean, we got to start off with the big one, Xander Bogaerts. Actually, really quick, before we do get into that, there have been some reports, nothing official, no official statements yet, but there was a report out there that Rafael Devers could be getting close to a 7-year deal with the Red Sox. General thoughts? What do you think? What do you think about that?
Well, the guy, he's 26 years old. So 7-year deal, I mean, that's within range, of course. It's just a matter of his comfort level as far as the numbers are concerned, I think the years that'll be good for Rafi. I mean, I don't think the Red Sox are interested in going 10 years with a guy, but I think 6, 7 years, that's a good number. What do you think?
I mean, yeah, to me, that sounds about right with what some of these other players have been getting. You're around that age, 25, 26, a 7-year deal. Sounds about right. There have been some conflicting reports. There was one report from Jansen Pujols of El Caribe out of the Dominican Republic saying that it looks like they were getting close to a deal. However, Chris Cotillo, I never know if I'm pronouncing that right. It's either Chris Cotillo or Cotillo out of Mass Live. He jumped in and said there's no active extension talks between the Red Sox and Rafael Devers. According to a source with direct knowledge, nothing imminent on that front. Boston is going to try hard to extend him this winter. So there's some conflicting reports here. There were some other reports that the Red Sox were out in the Dominican Republic talking to Rafael Devers. There was one report out there saying that, they went out there to wish him a happy birthday and just do like a check on him, like just to say, hey, how you doing or whatever. There's a lot of reports coming out. I'm not sure what to believe. I don't know. When you hear all these different reports, what are you thinking?
Well, it's all speculation, first of all. You never know until you see, the big guys, excuse me, down there talking to him, and they report that they're there, you can never really have an idea of what's going on. So right now it's speculation, but you have to think, hey, that contract is coming up. I mean, you don't want to wait until next year to do that. They're doing the right thing by addressing it now if that's the case.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I hope for, the Red Sox sake, everyone, they get this deal done. Rafael Devers, as a great hitter like you were, when you see Rafael Devers hitting, what do you think makes him special? What makes him unique, you think?
Well, he's aggressive, first of all. He's one of those players, you would rather be aggressive at the plate than passive. I've always said, attack the ball. And he's that kind of hitter. He's going up there with mean intentions. I mean, he's trying to hurt the ball. So anytime you have a guy like that, sometimes you tell Rafa, hey, just calm down. You don't have to swing so violent. But that's just his personality. That's just how he is. He wants to really crush the ball. So you don't want to change anything with this guy. You just want him to go out there, be healthy, first of all. If you have a healthy Rafael Devers, you're going to have something special.
It came to mind. You're talking about aggressiveness. One guy that maybe, could actually another benefit of Rafael Devers staying long term. Hey, Tristan Casas, more of a passive guy at the plate. Maybe he can learn a thing or two about Devers and how he is at the plate. Could you imagine Casas with that size, maybe getting a little more aggressive up there, maybe taking a few more hacks? My goodness, that could be a scary sight. Those two bats, my goodness, in the middle of the order. Oof.
You know what? I think they can learn from each other because, Tristan being a more patient hitter, drawing more walks, eyeballing the pitcher, making him work a little bit more. If Rafi can get a little of that from Tristan and Tristan get a little of the aggressiveness from Rafi, you're absolutely right. That could be something special for years to come.
Well, we can only hope that these reports are they're going to come to fruition. I saw the one thing about, there was one report, I mentioned it a second ago, they went out there to wish him a happy birthday. I'm just thinking, like, could you imagine they just fly all the way out there just to give him a birthday cake and say hello? I mean, it's got to be a lot more than that, man.
It's more.
You're not flying out to the Dominican Republic to give someone a birthday cake. I'm thinking you're looking to get a deal done. It would make sense that you want to take care of Rafael Devers first, right? He's the younger player. It's you want to get this guy locked down. And then I could imagine turning your attention to Xander Bogaerts. So let's talk about him. Unfortunately, there's no reports on Xander Bogaerts as of right now. So that makes me think the Red Sox are focused on Devers at the moment. But with Xander Bogaerts, I think we both agree that this is a guy you got to bring back. What are your general thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely have to bring him back. I mean, you're talking about a solid player, not only offensively but defensively. I think he's in the finalists for the Gold Glove as well. So, that's consistency every year that you have. So, and why look elsewhere when you already have that type of commodity within your organization? and you don't want to lose it. For me, you have that guy who not only proven that he could play in Boston, he can handle the media, he can handle the fans and everything else, the community. He does great in the communities. Never hear anything negative about Xander Bogaerts. That's the kind of player you want to represent your organization. And I think the Red Sox have done a great job with him thus far, and I think they're going to continue to do so. And for me, it would be a big mistake to let him go.
Oh, I agree. To me, this is kind of one of those guys. I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. Still putting up fantastic numbers overall. Yeah. A 6-win player from last year. Sure, he's he's going to be. Well, he's already 30 years old now, just turned 30, but still, this is a guy. I mean, this bat is something you want to keep around. It's going to be really hard to replace someone like a Bogaerts. Sure, you got some young players down in the minor leagues, but you can never count on, sure, Marcelo Meyer could end up being a special player, but you're looking at maybe 3 years down the road, and who knows what could end up happening, with their prospects at the end of the day. What you have in Bogaerts. To me, I think it's a no-brainer that you bring him back. I think you got to work out a deal. However, I'm going to be honest with you, I can't help but think of the John Lester situation, when he became a free agent. Well, they ended up trading him, but they were right there. You had John Henry flying out to his house, trying to get a deal done, and it was pretty much done that he went to the Chicago Cubs. And very similar situations. They offered John Lester a contract extension in spring training, quite a low offer. It got criticized pretty heavily. I believe it was like a 4-year, like $70 million deal. It was not good. I'm thinking, like, what the heck? This is John Lester we're talking about. And I can't help but think of that when it comes to this. I really hope it doesn't end up being the same. You would have hoped that they could have already worked out something by now. Do you think there's a chance, that it could end up being something similar to that? I don't know. What do you think about that?
Well, there's always a chance. And you have to think about this. Now, other clubs, they're going to feel like they need Xander more than the Red Sox, so they're going to be more aggressive for sure. So it's going to be totally up to him to say, okay, how much is enough? How comfortable do I feel in Boston? Do I want to go elsewhere? That's something as a free agent. Those are the things, like I said, you're going to have to discuss with your family, your agent, and go over all of those issues, because that's something that you're going to have to really make a wise decision. Mm-hmm. It's going to have to be something that's going to be your decision. First of all, you can't let anyone talk you into anything, especially when something like that.
Yeah. And like you said, other teams are going to be in on him. I could see the Chicago Cubs getting in on him. I mean, now you're hearing reports that the San Francisco Giants, when it comes to Aaron Judge, they're looking to not even get outbid. They're going to, supposedly the report is they are not going to stop when it comes to Aaron Judge. So the Giants definitely going after him. But the one thing about that report was that the Giants are looking to sign even a couple of more big-time free agents to try and entice Aaron Judge to come in. So sure, Brandon Crawford is there, but he's a free agent next year. I mean, if you have a chance to bring in someone like a Bogaerts, I mean, that could be a really nice addition for the San Francisco Giants, especially if you're trying to lure Judge over to San Fran. So, you're going to have teams out there. I would really look out for the Cubs, really. I mean, they're a team. They would love to add a bat like him. I could really see a team like that. I think in the end, the Red Sox, they will have the last say. I think he would like to stay in Boston. I mean, I don't know the guy personally, but I would think that's where he's been his whole career. And I think he would like to stay there. And
you know what? Another thing, I think as far as the free agency is concerned, it's like a domino effect. And let me just say this. The shortstop market is huge this year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you have 4 or 5 top guys that are available. You got Turner.
Oof. Yeah.
You have
Swanson.
I'm sorry,
Swanson,
Correa, Bogey. I mean, there's a lot of guys out there that can make a difference in a lot of different clubs. So it depends on, okay, who do they consider the top dog?
Yeah. It'll be really interesting to see what ends up happening with Bogaerts, but we both agree we got to bring this guy back. Another guy to pay attention to. Now let's shift over to the mound. Is Nathan Eovaldi? I think Nathan Eovaldi could be a pretty good candidate when it comes to accepting a qualifying offer. It feels like, this isn't the way Nathan Eovaldi, or at least I would think this is not the way he would want to go into free agency. Battled some injuries this year. It wasn't really a great year for Nathan Eovaldi. I would love for him to come back. Obviously, he's done some great things with the Red Sox, but last year it just felt like, it feels like maybe there's a little unfinished business there. What are your thoughts on Nathan Eovaldi?
Well, Nathan, he's one of those guys, very competitive, and he got hurt toward the end of the season, of course. Would love to have seen him come back and get 2 or 3 starts just to let people know that he's healthy and, he's ready to come back out and contribute to the ball club. But I definitely think there's a lot left in the tank with him. Mm-hmm. Anytime you can have a fastball from 95 to 98 miles per hour and your secondary stuff is pretty damn good as well. He has a lot left in the tank. I mean, he was one of those guys at the beginning of the season toward the middle of the season that was right there as far as solidifying that rotation and helping the club to get to where they were, like in June, when everything was going well. Everyone was pitching well at that time. So, yeah, he has it in the bag. It's just a matter of him staying healthy. That's always been the thing with him health-wise. Yeah,
and absolutely. That's always been the thing. And I feel like with Nathan Eovaldi, when if you got a chance to go into free agency, after next year, let's say they offer him a qualifying offer, and then you could definitely have, him come back for the 1 year. And I could see him being pretty motivated to have a good season, and then he can set himself up for a nice contract next year. To me, Nathan Eovaldi, he's never really been, at least in my opinion, I've never seen him as an ace. I think he's a really good number 2 when he's healthy. He's not really like that top dog guy. He can definitely step up for you when you need him to, but
yeah,
I've never viewed him as an ace, but I would love to have him in this rotation. He's an anchor of a rotation to me when he's healthy. I would love to have him back. I think it just makes sense because the Red Sox do need some starting pitching, and I'll go over some needs here in a second, but just going over a few players here. Nathan Eovaldi, yeah, so we agree that probably he should come back. Now, JD Martinez, this is an interesting one where he will be hitting the free agent market. After a season, it wasn't an amazing season for JD Martinez. The power numbers were down. Not a bad season overall, hitting 274 with a 341 on base, but the slugging was a little low at 448. That's not a bad slugging percentage, but it's not what we're used to seeing with JD Martinez. 16 home runs. I don't know. This is an interesting one. I could see people going either way here with JD. Where are you leaning more towards with a JD Martinez?
Well, like you said, that's very interesting because I thought for sure that he may have gotten traded by the deadline this past season. Get a couple prospects in the organization for him. And, now he's a free agent. He can just, walk for a draft pick later on. But still, I think, JD, he's going to have a bounce back season. This was, for him, it was a very disappointing season, as far as the home runs, the RBI, the run production, this kind of stuff. He knows he's going to have to bounce back with a big year. And I think he can because, his work ethic is unbelievable. The way he studies video and film and the way he watches, he knows his particular swing. This guy can go back into the lab and fix it, especially now. I guarantee you, usually when the season is over, a guy takes about a month off before you really start getting back into it. I guarantee you he's in the cages right now working on something to get him a little faster on that inside pitch because I tell you what, he got beaten inside early and away late a lot. There was that little trend throughout the course of the season where you work him in early and go away late, and he would chase. And that really hurt him. It affected him toward the end of the season. So I'm sure he's working on that now. But look for JD to have a big year next year. And I would like to see, the Red Sox, make a conscious effort just to address it. But if they can't, I totally get it because, there are so many other big hitters that are out there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, with JD Martinez, I almost wondered last year, he didn't really miss a lot of time, but I almost wonder if he was maybe battling through something last year. Maybe.
Well, you could tell. I mean,
Yeah.
I know a guy's swing. Sometimes his swing was a little long, it was a little loopy, and he was chasing up a lot. That goes to show me it was either a back issue or upper shoulder, issue, something that he wasn't getting to that ball that he normally crushes.
Yeah. It'll be I think, an off season. I would love to see what he could do. Maybe you could come back on a 1-year deal. I think JD Martinez, it's not just the numbers that he brings. I think it's just his presence in the clubhouse, in the dugout as well. Guys go to him, if they need some help with their hitting, if they see something off. I've heard JD Martinez talk about this before, where he watches the other guys in the cages and he'll be like, oh, I see something here. So do you think that's a pretty underrated aspect when it comes to like a player like a JD Martinez?
No, I think that's very important. Anytime you can have a guy like that. I mean, I played with a guy like that in San Francisco, Barry Bonds. Barry could look at you in the cage and tell you exactly, where you are. It's like he has this memory bank. He knows what you look like when you're going well, opposed to when you're struggling, and what kind of adjustments you need to make. But again, with JD, if the Red Sox are going in another direction, you have to remember, you didn't have a lot of home run production in the lineup in the first place. You let a couple of big home run guys get away this past season, and they had tremendous years elsewhere, and of course you can't do the same thing with JD. And if you do, you have to get some guys in the fold that can produce and produce pretty heavily.
Yeah, absolutely. I would like for Martinez to come back, but like you said, if it ends up being they part ways, I can understand it. It's going to come down to, I think in the end, Bogaerts and Devers are the priorities right now. I think it's just going to end up being, if it works, it works. If both sides can come up with something. Bloom, he's always looking at the numbers, looking at projections down the road. I think a 1-year deal, maybe like with an option, maybe some incentives. I could see something like that. But we'll have to just wait and see. But there is one more guy. He's a bit of a forgotten guy here. And when it comes to starting pitching, we were hoping we were going to see him last year at some point. Unfortunately, never really got over the injuries he was coming back from. But James Paxton,
Big Maple.
Yeah, I was excited when we signed him. I knew going in, to that signing that, you didn't know if you were going to see him or not, but it was looking like, he was progressing a bit during the season, but then got shut down. With James Paxton, I think he will end up coming back. There is a club option on him. Last year was a 1-year, $10 million deal. Obviously did not play, but there is a club option for 23 and 24. I mean, to me, and also he can exercise a player option for $4 million if they don't exercise the club option. So it's a bit of an interesting contract. I think just my opinion, I think the Red Sox did that because they knew there's a good chance maybe he couldn't have pitched, or really not that much last year.
Yeah.
So that's why they have a 2-year club option. I would think they're probably wanting to exercise that. I don't know. It's an interesting contract. What are your thoughts on just that overall contract?
Well, anytime you're coming off an injury like that, every player is totally different. Everybody comes back at a different time frame. Noah Syndergaard, it took him 2 years to get back. Okay. Now you look at the big guy in Houston. I'm having a brain cramp here.
Verlander,
yeah. Verlander, he comes back in a year and a half, almost 2 years, same thing. Mm-hmm. Other guys come back a lot quicker. Chris Sale came back a little quicker. So it really depends on the player. So the Red Sox, for me, they were really smart to back in that contract the way they did. And for Paxton, you have to think as a player, it's not always about the money. And here's a club that spent that time with you, rehabbed you throughout the course of the season. There's some loyalty there with that guy. I'm trying to tell you. Yeah. I'm telling you, he's feeling like, okay, I owe the Red Sox something. I should come back and play for them and prove to them and everyone else that I'm 100%. So I think he's going to come back in the fold, and I think he's going to be a big part of that rotation.
Yeah, I think so too. And, he's had a whole year here to, really work his way back. And like you said, I think there's some loyalty. I think they knew this coming in, and that's why I think they put the 2-year club option in there.
Sure.
Because, that just seems like they just knew this could happen. So I expect James Paxton to be back. So we're through the big free agents here. Now let's move on to where we can address, this Red Sox team in 2023. Right off the bat, if you were to just go with one area that you need to improve on this team, where, with you watching this team all year, what do you think they really need to work on here?
I mean, you just can't pinpoint it to one thing. There are so many things that popped up last year. I mean, the back end bullpen, okay, the rotation, defense, base running. There are so many issues that came up during the course of the season that needs to be, ironed out. And but if there were one thing that I would address, that would have to be the bullpen. Mm-hmm. You have to have a bridge to a closer, and that closer has to be someone you can lean on and have faith in to bring in at any given time. But that bridge from that 7th, 8th, 9th inning, you have to have a consistency right there.
Yeah. And I have some numbers here for you when it comes to the bullpen. I agree. This bullpen does need some work. And one big aspect of the bullpen, last year I was thinking here, Garrett Whitlock, keep him in the closer role. It just felt like that was the place for him, at least last year. But now it's looking like Garrett Whitlock will most likely move into the rotation. They were having him start last year. He was going through some injuries. He ended up having a surgery on his hip. So Garrett Whitlock most likely will be in the starting rotation. Now, this leaves a pretty big hole at the back end of the bullpen. Matt Barnes, he did not have it last year. Tanner Houck had some problems with his back. Schreiber was a great option. I don't know if I fully see him as a closer. I wouldn't have minded if they had him as a closer last year, but I feel like he's a really solid setup guy. I would like maybe a little bit more strikeouts in the closer role, but I think they really need a shutdown option here in this bullpen. But one other thing I want to point out with this bullpen, they gave up a lot of walks last year, almost 4 walks per 9. That ranked 25th in Major League Baseball last year. And they could use some more strikeouts as well. They were right in the middle, 15th overall in strikeouts per 9. So a big option at the back end of the bullpen could really alleviate some of these issues. The big guy on the market is Edwin Diaz. Now, there's a chance here that Edwin Diaz could end up maybe even getting the first reliever to get $100 million. This guy is absolutely filthy. Don't know if I see Chaim Bloom doing that. When it comes to Chaim Bloom and the bullpen, he always seems to go and find those diamonds in the rough. I don't know. If we had an Edwin Diaz, bring the trumpets to Boston, I would absolutely love that. But Boston would love him, but I don't see Bloom spending the money. You got some other options here. Another couple of guys on the Mets are going to be free agents. You got Seth Lugo. You got Trevor May. There's Taylor Rogers. He was with the Padres, and he was in the Josh Hader trade. He went back to the Brewers. Yep. Now, he struggled with the Brewers. He was better with the Padres. So there are some options. There is even a Kenley Jansen out there. He only had the 1-year deal with the Braves. So I don't know. What do you think? Do you think maybe they go with an external option for the 9th inning, go for a closer out there? Or do you think maybe they do something in-house?
No, I think you have to go outside the house to get someone, and you have to get someone with some experience in that area. Yeah. You don't want to go there in the closer's role. That's one of the most important areas in the bullpen. You want someone that's anchored down, been there before, knows how to do the job. Even if you go through some problems during the course of the season, he can bounce back. So I would definitely say go out and get a free agent and bring him in and got some history there. Okay.
Yeah.
When you do that, you can always, you talk about Jason Whitlock. I mean, this is a guy that he's like a Swiss Army knife. He can do so many things. Okay, he can start for you. He can be the first guy out of the pen. He could be the setup guy. He could be a closer. But how is he going to be most effective with the Red Sox? Now, the question was, can he be a starter? Yes, we've seen that he could start. But the question is, where does he feel more comfortable? That's the most important thing. Forget everything that he can do. Of course, yeah, he could do it. But where does he feel more comfortable? That's what you have to really think about. And for me, I think he feels comfortable coming in that 7th, 8th inning, somewhere around that range.
Yeah.
Because he can give you one good solid inning, maybe two, because he can spread it out a little bit, stretch it out. Give you 2 innings coming out of the pen, very effective. Now, in that starter's role, you're not going to want him to go 5 innings every time because, at some point you're going to want to stretch him out.
Yeah.
Can he do that consistently? We don't know.
Yeah.
But we know he can do that coming out of the bullpen.
Oh, he was so good in 2021. It was like, and the big part of Garrett Whitlock, what makes him so good is he releases the ball so close to the plate. He had so much extension on his pitches. Like these hitters, they don't have enough time because the ball is coming out just so close to the plate. It's to me, he was a special guy in that closer role. I'm thinking here when they're starting him last year, I'm thinking, my goodness, like he has shown what he can do. Now with him, he has said that, he wants to start. It reminds me of, some other, there's been some other guys like that in the past, but with Whitlock, it seems like that's where his heart is. He wants to be a starting pitcher, but man, he's so good in that closer role. I don't know. It's going to be interesting.
Being a starting pitcher, your role. Okay.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm coming out of that pen. I don't know when I'm going to come out of that pen. As soon as that phone rings, you know your situation. This might be one of my roles here. But when you're a starting pitcher, you're every 5th day.
Yeah.
And every pitcher, that's their number. They want to be a starter, of course, because that's where everything is. I mean, that's where the big money is. That's where you can get the best out of yourself. Anything like that. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Well, we'll have to wait and see, but we do have some options here. Of course, I would love some trumpets with Edwin Diaz, but I don't know if Bloom is going to spend.
I don't think he's going to get out of New York.
Yeah, I think the Mets. I would say he either stays with the Mets or the Yankees really go in on him. It's going to be interesting. Like you mentioned earlier, a domino effect. If they don't end up getting Judge, all of a sudden they have some money. They already have money, but now they're going to have more money if they don't end up getting Judge back. So
I've always said if Judge leaves the Yankees in the American League, he's going to the National League. There's no way he's going to go back to New York on a regular basis and take that abuse from a place that actually loved him prior. No, he's not going to do that. He's going to go to a totally different league, and then you're talking about a whole nother set of marbles getting acclimated to a new league. Yeah,
it'll be interesting. But now I want to say here, I agree. The bullpen definitely needs some help. They definitely need an option at the back end. They need a guy that's going to shut it down. But, this starting pitching this past year, it was it really, they ran into a lot of injuries, not a lot of innings out of the starters. If we're looking here at the numbers, the Red Sox last year, they only ranked 21st in innings pitched. So they definitely need some more innings out of this bullpen. The starting rotation. Another thing about the Red Sox is they gave up a lot of home runs. The starting rotation did. The starting pitchers were not very good at keeping the ball in the yard. They actually were 25th in home runs per 9, 1.25 home runs per 9. I mean, when you're giving up a home run or 2 home runs a game, I mean, that's not very fun. They need some starting pitching. They need some innings, and I think a guy that can get some, ground balls would obviously be very helpful. Keep the ball in the yard. We got a few options here. Now, the easy option, the big option here that does check off those boxes. He did a great job at keeping the ball in the yard, and he's very good. Carlos Rodon. That is the big ticket option here for the starting pitchers. I mean, I don't see why the Red Sox couldn't be in that market. I don't know, with how you've seen the Red Sox operate when it comes to, spending money the last few years? Do you think they could go after a big time starting option?
Yeah, I mean, you talk about Carlos Rodon. He was the Giants. Just I tell you what, they found this guy that got a great deal with him on a 2-year deal to go to San Francisco. The question was, could he stay healthy? Because he had health issues as well, but had a solid year this year, all-star caliber player. And I tell you what, he just upped his stock during this year. And yeah, he's going to be one of those guys that's going to draw a lot of interest this offseason. He's got to be one of the top starters out there.
Yep.
He's gonna back up the Brinks truck. I tell you that.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, he's definitely one of the top options. You got Jacob deGrom, Justin Verlander could be out there as well. We're going to have some options, but Carlos Rodon, definitely one of the big ticket items. He did have the luxury of, playing at Oracle, a little bit more of a spacious park. So would be interesting to see, would he give up some more home runs at Fenway? But I think if you could add someone like this and if he stays healthy, it's obviously going to be an upgrade to your rotation.
Sure.
Now, I have a few other options. I got a few other options here for you.
Let's hear that.
If Chaim Bloom doesn't want to, spend the money, if he wants to maybe go for some cheaper deals, we do have some other guys out here. And like I said, we got to try and keep the ball in the yard, and we got to get some innings. And we have some guys here that I think you could end up looking at. So let me share my screen here once again. One guy that comes to mind is Jose Quintana. A lot of ground balls, a lot of innings. I honestly think, this could be a guy, you could get him for a pretty decent deal. He seems like a Chaim Bloom kind of a move, where a little more on the cheap end, but he can give you some effective innings. I don't know. What do you think of someone like a Quintana, like a middle of the rotation kind of a guy? Well,
he's going to give you the quality innings, of course. Not a big velo kind of guy, velocity guy.
Yeah,
he's more of a pitcher. He throws in and out, elevate with 2 strikes. Not going to blow you away, but he knows how to pitch.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, could he help the rotation? Of course he could, but it has to be a good deal. It has to be the right situation, and it depends on what the Red Sox do otherwise. I mean, that's not someone that I would target right off the bat.
Right.
But I can see what you're talking about. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and another guy, and this guy's actually, he's been in the division. He has pitched against the Red Sox quite a bit. Ross Stripling had himself a really good year last year. He had 32 games, 24 of them were starts. A very underrated year. We heard a lot about Kevin Gausman, Alek Manoah, but Ross Stripling was quite an anchor in that rotation. He really was Mr. Consistency over there behind Gausman and Manoah. And he's proven that he can pitch in the American League East. He's proven that he can pitch at some of these parks. I could honestly see the Red Sox maybe taking a look. Again, I think he's one of these guys like Quintana, like you said, maybe not the first option to really go after, but once the market clears up a little bit, then I could see Bloom maybe taking a look at someone like him, because he has proven himself to pitch in this division. And then there's another option here too. An old friend, had a really good year with the Texas Rangers, was Martin Perez. Now, I don't know if the Red Sox, Bloom just seemed to have a thing for Martin Perez because he liked the advanced numbers. He liked that he didn't give up a lot of hard contact. That's the one thing with Perez, is the exit velocity off of him is not high. So then this year with Texas, he really found a way to put it together. He got a ton of ground balls, over 50% ground balls this year. And I really think that's what the Red Sox need. They need a guy that can keep the ball on the ground. Perez, I don't know, maybe he was in the right situation with Texas. He didn't put up these kind of numbers with Boston. Yeah. I don't know. What would you think about a reunion here with Martin Perez?
Again, you talk about players that pitch and play well other places and not in Boston. Yeah. Boston's not for everyone. I've said that for everyday players for a number of years. You have to be a certain kind of player to play in Boston, New York, Philly. Those 3 places, with the media, with the fans, with everything that's going on, there's tradition of winning here. There's a little expectation, a little more expectation in those cities than anywhere else. Now, he may have felt more relaxed in Texas like he did before. So, you never know. But I tell you what, as soon as he left here, he dealt. Like, what the heck is going on?
Yeah.
But there's so many different options out there, like you said, as far as, rotational help. Yeah. But my whole thing is, when you have the New York Yankees, the Toronto Blue Jays, Tampa Bay Rays, and the up-and-coming Baltimore Orioles in your division and all finished ahead of you, you definitely have to make some sort of decisions, some big moves, to get back in the race.
Yeah.
That's going to be number one.
I agree. So now, like, these options that I presented, more middle of the rotation guys, but, I really wouldn't mind an addition like, one of these guys that can give you some innings and also keep the home runs down as well. The rotation as of right now, according to Fangraphs, if I go share my screen once again, if Chris Sale is healthy and good to go, you're looking at him on opening day. Nick Pivetta had his ups and downs this year. He threw a lot of innings. And, Pivetta, I still think, is going to be in this rotation. We talked about Garrett Whitlock. Could he end up moving over there? We'll have to wait and see. Brian Bayo, most likely, I think we're going to see him every 5 days in that rotation. I think that could be pretty fun. But it feels like they could use another guy or two. And then Nathan Eovaldi, obviously, what ends up happening with him. I saw a quote the other day about with George Steinbrenner. George Steinbrenner, he always thought, you never have enough starting pitching. Remember, they were saying, he's like, oh, George, we got 8 starting pitchers. Perfect. Awesome. But we need more. It's like, I always feel like you can never have enough starting pitching. Do you just feel like the Red Sox really need to beef up the amount of starters that they can have?
Well, I tell you what, after this year, my thought process is leaning toward that.
Yeah.
Because you had so many injuries this year. You had so many different things that popped up, during the course of the season. So if you can go out and add 1 or maybe 2 more free agent pitchers, yeah, I can see that, because that's when I was talking about that domino effect, even in the pitching staff. You already have, Eovaldi, you have Eovaldi, you got, who else did you say there? You got.
Yeah, we had Pivetta, we had Bayo, and then you had some other guys like Cutter Crawford, Winkowski.
Bayo's he solidified himself this year. I mean, that kid's going to be amazing. So, if you can go out on the free agent market and get at least 1 top free agent out there, bring him back into Boston, things are going to be looking a heck of a lot better.
Absolutely. But now, so we've talked about the bullpen. We've talked about the rotation. Let's talk about the offense. It really felt like the offense this year really just lacked another thumper of a bat. You could feel the subtraction of Hunter Renfroe. It just felt like you didn't have that right-handed bat. They brought in Story to replace that bat. Story had some injuries. I think you're going to see a better season out of Trevor Story, like you've mentioned here before with Story getting acclimated to a new league, and again, he battled some health issues this year, had the wrist fracture. I think he can end up having a really good season. And then Kike Hernandez was having some issues last year with the hip. But it seems like the one glaring hole as of right now is right field. And man, oh man, we've talked about it. I mean, I hate to go to these easy options because they're the top options.
Yeah.
But man, Aaron Judge really checks off a lot of boxes for you. Do you think the Red Sox have any shot?
I'm sorry, I can't see that one. That's like the kiss of death.
Yeah.
I don't think he would leave New York and come to Boston. I mean, I may be wrong. I mean, you mentioned this before with the A-Rod thing years back. You never know, but
who would have thought Damon would have went?
Yeah. I just don't see that happening. But yeah, I mean, there's a guy that can make a difference in a lot of different places,
Absolutely. It is easy to look to him. He's going to have a lot of suitors going out for him. I mentioned the Giants. They said reports are they're not going to stop until they get Aaron Judge, supposedly. Bogaerts, obviously, and that's the other, glaring hole in the lineup. You got to find a way to bring him back.
Yeah.
But if we're just paying attention to right field, right? Shortstop, whatever happens there, if Bogaerts were to not come back, worst case scenario, you could slide Trevor Story over to short. You can figure out second base. You have a Christian Arroyo there. You could go on to the market for a second baseman, someone like a Cesar Hernandez you could bring in. Worst case is the team is not, again, I think you got to bring back Bogaerts, but if you don't, you can figure it out. And I'm not saying that's a great solution, but there is a way to solve that issue. Maybe not completely solve the issue, but you can figure it out. With right field, it doesn't really feel like there's a great fix internally. You have someone like a Franchi Cordero, but I don't think that's really the guy you turn to. I like Rob Refsnyder, but to me, he's more of a bench guy. There is an issue here with right field, and it feels like they need to figure something out here. Judge is obviously an option, but you do have some other options. We have an old friend. We have an old friend in Andrew Benintendi, who is going to be a free agent, a left-handed bat. You could have a Verdugo move out to right, and Benintendi is more of a left fielder. So could we maybe see a reunion with Andrew Benintendi? I don't know. What would you think about Benintendi possibly coming back?
Well, I mean, like I said, he's played here in Boston. He knows how to play in Boston. He's a great player. Excuse me, put the ball in play. He has some power. But, a right fielder, that's exactly what you have to have. You have to have the guy that's going to put the ball in play, hit some balls out of the ballpark, a run producer. That is the position for power, right field. So I don't know other free agents that are out there, but yeah, I mean, you could do a little slip and slide over from left to right with Benintendi, or I mean, there's a lot of options that are out there as far as numbers that you can fill in right there.
Right. And there are some other options for right field. I agree with you. I think you need to do some form of a power bat for right field. You do have a guy like an Adam Duvall. He can hit some homers. You got someone like a Mitch Haniger. He battled health issues last year, but when he's healthy, that can be a really good bat. Someone like a Robbie Grossman, not a great option. He can get on base, but really after that, there's not a whole ton of options when it comes to free agency in right field. There is one guy that I think could be interesting is Michael Conforto. He ended up not signing with the team last year. It seemed like because there was the qualifying offer attached to him. So no teams wanted to give up a draft pick. And he ended up not coming back at all, even after the draft. And I guess there was, some stuff going on with the shoulder as well. The Red Sox did make a phone call, according to reports, last offseason. I wonder if you could turn to someone like him. He is a left-handed bat. I think I would like to have a right-handed bat, but, I don't know. What would you think about someone like Conforto, who's been out of the game for a little bit now? Do you think you could see the Red Sox maybe taking a chance on him?
I think he's going to draw some interest, because here's a guy, left-handed bat, solid outfielder, has power.
Yeah.
Like you said, he missed some time this year, but not significant amount of time. I think here's a guy that can come out and produce some runs for you. I like his swing. His short, quick, solid bat.
Yeah. If
he can get back, into the swing of things, he could be a help for a lot of teams.
Yeah, I agree. Conforto, he was just such an interesting free agent last year, just because, again, he had that qualifying offer tied to him. No teams, especially nowadays, no one wants to be giving up draft picks now. So it was unfortunate for him. I mean, I can see, you thinking here, man, you got to feel for the guy, because, the teams know how good of a player he could be, but he had health issues and no one wanted to take a risk on him. So it was, who knows, maybe this can end up being a good thing. He's had a whole year to, get healthy and, get himself ready for this off season. There is one other area on this, in this lineup that you could see the Red Sox maybe turn to. I actually wonder if maybe they stay in-house here, but I want to hear your thoughts. The catcher position, Christian Vasquez will be a free agent. You could maybe turn back to him. When asked about it, I mean, obviously you can't really talk about it, but hey, he didn't even turn it down, the idea of coming back. It'll be interesting. Could you bring someone back like a Christian Vasquez? You're going to have some other options. Wilson Contreras can be a free agent. There is someone like a Mike Zunino who was hurt last year. That's a power right-handed bat. I would see Bloom loving to bring a former Tampa Bay Ray. I could see a bit of a connection there. There's something about Gary Sanchez to me. I wonder if Bloom would just love the idea of bringing in like the power that he could have at Fenway Park. I think the catching position is intriguing. I got to hear your thoughts on this. What do you think? Would you stay in-house here, or would you go to the free agent market?
Well, I think you have to also just think about the free agent market when it comes to catchers, because, the in-house options that you have don't have the experience for a full season. Okay, you're talking, Connor Wong. Mm-hmm. He showed some defensive skills, great arm, but who knows exactly what that may be like over a course of a season. I'm not sure. I mean, you talk about Gary Sanchez. I mean, here's a guy that got tremendous power. Now, how's his throwing? I can't remember.
I mean, he can throw, but he is basically, now I'm not a professional catcher by any means. I will never even be close to one, but at the major league level, watching him catch was just abysmal. It was painful. And he was on the Yankees, and I'm watching him, and I feel bad for the Yankee fans having to watch him catch. Really good arm. The guy could really gun some guys down on the bases, but he just looked like he couldn't frame. He just looked like a brick wall back there, and not in a good way.
I wouldn't be surprised if Christian Vasquez came back to Boston, being a free agent. I mean, he handled this rotation extremely well. Oh, yeah. I thought he did. I really thought he did a great job with the team.
He's amazing.
Yeah. And, him being a free agent, he's not playing as much as I thought he might play in Houston.
Yeah.
So you never know. Him and Maldonado are splitting time, but he's not getting as many at-bats as Maldonado at this point. And I think that, that would be something that's on his mind for sure. I mean, he was comfortable in Boston. He loved the city, the fans, the players on the team. So, no, I wouldn't be totally shocked with that. But, I think, you have to look at outside the box when you're talking about catching, especially when you talk about some veteran-type players. You don't want to just put all the emphasis on in-house rookie young players and have that stress of handling a rotation as well as defensively, to help the club. No, I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I would love for Vasquez to come back. You do have Reese McGuire, who was very good defensively last year. Actually, one of the better defensive catchers in Major League Baseball last year, an 11.9 defense on Fangraphs. That was near the top. So I feel good about him being on this team defensively. I could see, because you have him for the defense, I could honestly see Bloom maybe doing a bit of like a platoon here, maybe going for an offensive player. That's why you had Kevin Plawecki.
Oh, you go left, right there?
Yeah, and he was more of that offensive guy, but now you have McGuire, who's the defense. So I wonder what Bloom does here. I think this is one of the more intriguing questions for the Red Sox. Yeah. A couple more things before we do get out of here for tonight. I just want to point out there are some other areas for the Red Sox to improve. I think, with you've mentioned this before, they needed something better on the bases this year. They were right near the bottom, 27th in base running this past year. We've talked about this before. Alex Cora, there's no way he's happy with that. They just didn't seem like they were very good at getting hit and runs, getting some stolen bases. It just felt like there was just a lack of speed there. Another thing to mention here is contact percentage. We like to talk about these numbers. We like to look at exit velocities and all that, but really just a nice simple thing of putting the ball in play. Right. I just feel like it's forgotten about. And the Red Sox were only 19th last year, right around a little just below 76% contact percentage. When you look at some of the top teams, Cleveland had the highest, Houston, who's in the World Series, at number 2. The Mets were at number 3, Padres at number 5, Toronto at number 8. So you had some of these better playoff teams. When you can put the ball in play, you more likely than not, now it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have a ton of success.
Yeah.
We see teams like the Rockies, the Nationals had high contact percentages. It also comes down to, bat speed as well. There's a lot more factors, but if more often than not, if you can put the ball in play, good things can happen. So I think the Red Sox do need to improve on that. If you were to kind of lean, offensively for the Red Sox, what do you think they maybe need to focus on? Or do you think maybe a little bit of both? Do you think they need to focus on maybe just getting some more power in this lineup? Or do you think they should focus more on getting some more contact, some more speed?
Well, I mean, baseball, hasn't changed over 100 years. Come on. Anytime you can go out and play the game of baseball. And when I say that, there's so many different aspects of the game. Hit and run, bunting, base stealing, that all puts things, you could put a guy in scoring position either way there. And you don't see enough of that nowadays. I don't know what happened the last few years, but it's like a dinosaur. It's like extinct now. You very seldom see a team that does it all anymore.
Right.
And, everyone's, like you say, this launch angle, lift and separate, try to hit the ball out of the park. We're going to wait for the big home run inning. I think that's some boring baseball, to be honest with you.
Oh,
I love the athleticism of a club that can go out there. Look, let me just give you a good example. I didn't think this team was going to win, but the Cleveland Guardians.
Yeah.
They had no power. They had Jose Ramirez with 28 to 30 home runs. They had Josh Naylor with 20 or 22 home runs. That's it.
Yeah.
They produced their runs with contact, base running, moving guys over, having the base paths just, always on fire. Everyone is moving. And they caused havoc. If the Yankees, of course, hit 9 home runs again in that series to win the series, but still, if you have a team that's balanced with power and some athleticism with some speed, man, you can run through this league like none before. And I say that all the time. And Alex Cora, he came up in the era where, you bunt it, you hit and run, you move guys over, you steal some bags. But of course, you have to deal with what you have in the organization, make the best of what you have. But I just think that's something that needs to come back into the game. And they're trying to do things in the game now to speed up the game, to make it more aggressive, making the bases bigger. For me, that's saying, okay, we're trying to get some kind of runs going in the course of the game. Make it a little easier to steal bags. There's no more shifting. Guys act like they couldn't hit the other way. Well, Jesus, if you got a hole over on the other side, why would I go and pull this ball? Let me hit it the other way and beat the shift. But you didn't see that. I'm like, okay, something's going on here. But let's get back to playing baseball and not just sitting back waiting for a 3-run inning with a home run. The chances of you hitting that home run are slim to none. But the chances of you stealing the bag, dropping a bunt down for a hit, running something out, hit and run, you can do that. You can manufacture runs.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we've seen, hey, we're a Red Sox podcast here. We can make fun of the Yankees here a little bit. Now, the Yankees, every year they have a good team, 100 wins, close to it at least. It just feels like they just lean so much on the analytics. Like they try to be the Rays, they try to be the A's, they try to be the Guardians. Like it's weird because they're a big market team and they're trying to play like a small market team. It's just like a weird thing when, to me, when you look at the 2 managers that are in the World Series right now, Dusty Baker, Rob Thompson, these are veteran guys, especially Dusty Baker. You're not seeing, I guarantee Dusty Baker is not going home at night, diving onto his computer and running his, analytics simulators and trying to figure out, no, this is a guy, I think Dusty, and he's even talked about it before, where, he welcomes the numbers. He welcomes the advanced numbers, but he has a feel for the game, and same thing with Rob Thompson. This is a guy where Yeah, he likes the numbers. Brian Snitker with the Braves likes the numbers, but they're also just using their heads too. Sometimes you're going to be right, sometimes you're going to be wrong, but I agree. I think you need to have a bit of a balance, and that's where the Yankees, it's like they made just some of the weirdest calls, taking out Cole. I understand you had the bases loaded there, no outs, but it's like, God, that is your ace. That is the guy you're paying, how much money per year, and he did not like getting taken out of that game.
No.
He wanted to, it's like, you got to let the guy just do the job. And sometimes, imagine if he gets out of that, maybe he only gives up a run, they get a double play, get a strikeout, how much that could rev up your team, but you didn't even give them the option. And then they went to a Lou Trevino, and it's like, all right, fine. If you're going to take out your best starting pitcher, could you at least go with, one of your best relievers? Trevino's been good, but he's not a Jonathan Loaisaga in there, or, and Clay Holmes was barely used. And it was so weird, just some of the weirdest things. But that just goes to show you could have that much talent. You could have a record-breaking season from an Aaron Judge, and it still doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, if you're just going so heavily on numbers, well, then look what's going to happen. It's going to turn into just a mess, And
well, I just like the fact that, baseball is still baseball. And you mentioned the Atlanta Braves. I mean, the Atlanta Braves, man, they have some young athletic players on that team. Ozzie Albies, Acuna. They have Dansby Swanson. They have that center fielder Harris. These guys go out, not only hit the ball, hit for average, but they hit for power, as well as get on the bases and steal bags. They create things, and that's what I mean with baseball. You have to start creating these runs. You just can't sit back and just wait all the time. If I'm a fan at today's game with a lot of teams, I'm bored as heck. There's no way.
Yeah. Like the Rays, when you look at the Rays, they gotta go that way. They gotta go that route of using the advanced metrics, the numbers, because they don't have the money like these other teams do.
Mm-hmm.
They have to think outside the box like that. And for them, it works. Now, and that's another thing too. You can use all the analytics you want, you can use all the numbers you want, but if you don't got the right people at least doing it, then it's like, what good is it going to do for you? The Rays, they got just the best people doing it, right? That's where they said they knew they couldn't spend money on these players, but they can go out and get some of these guys that can really dig into the numbers, right? And they can work behind the scenes,
Sure.
That's where they've spent their money, because that's really all they can. That's the only way they can spend their money. But the Yankees, on the other hand, you have the luxury of, winning all these World Series over the years. You have that market, it's, if you're going to use the analytics, at least do it well.
Sure.
It's like crazy to me, like some of the moves they saw. But speaking of, before we do get out of here, one more thing. I mean, we have to talk about the World Series that's starting in a couple of days.
Sure.
I love this matchup. I love the matchup. You got a Phillies team that were 21 and 29 or whatever it was with Girardi. And then they ended up going to Rob Thompson. And look at how they've turned around their season. They've had just such a fun lineup this year. Really good starting pitching. Bullpen has been sneaky good. And then this Astros team, they're just so good all the way around.
Yeah.
Like everything is so good. Ellis, man, I got to hear what are you thinking here with the World Series? Which way are you leaning? You going Astros? You going Phillies? I don't know. What do you think?
You talk about the Phillies and the start that they got off to. Got rid of their manager, Joe Girardi. Brought in Rob Thompson. Did a tremendous job. Sort of reminds me of the Braves of last year. Got off to that slow start, and then it just got hot as heck throughout the middle of the season, toward the end of the season on fire. The Phillies are a tough club, and they showed not only can they catch the ball. They can play some defense. There was a couple of games where they had a couple of little hiccups here and there, but they put the ball in play. They're going to hit the long ball as well. They got great bullpen. They got the starting rotation. Everything is clicking right now. They walked through the playoffs and surprised a lot of people. So the Phillies are going to be tough. Houston, on the other hand, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no. Oh, sorry. No, you go.
Yeah, Houston, on the other hand, here's a team that's been there 4 out of the last 6 years in the ALCS, and I tell you what, since the scandal, Dusty has gone over there. He's righted the ship. These guys are playing just as well. You're not hearing about that cheating scandal anymore because that's what he was brought in there to do, to clean it up. And that's exactly what he did. But they still had the talent. Carrera leaves, and all of a sudden they bring in the young kid, and he didn't miss a step. I mean, 22 home runs, 3 or 4 in the playoffs this year. I mean, he's doing unbelievable and
looking like he belongs. He's been there for years.
Been there for years, man. And the thing about that, it's going to be a great series. I mean, both bullpens are top notch. Oh. They got great starting pitching. You got a young, aggressive team on both sides. You're talking about a big time war right here. I like it. And I can't give you a pick right now. Of course, my heart, I would love to see Dusty get him a championship, get a win.
Oh, yeah.
Win the World Series, ride off on that white horse in history. And, something like that. But, even if Dusty wins the World Series, I don't think he's going to leave. I think he's going to come back for one more year. But
I don't think he'll ever leave.
Yeah,
I think
nevertheless.
He's Dusty Baker, actually, one of your best seasons in the major leagues actually was with Dusty Baker. The year 2000, you finished 15th in MVP voting. You hit 344 that year, a 419 on base, a 606 slugging. You had an OPS over 1,000, a solid season, 24 homers, 96 RBIs. Dusty Baker was your manager in 2000. Yep. I gotta, you obviously, you've seen a lot of Dusty Baker. What could you tell us about Dusty Baker? What is we see him all the time on TV and the press conferences. As a man, what is something you could tell us about Dusty Baker?
Dusty Baker, it's like having your dad out there with you. If you got a great relationship with your father, that's exactly what it's like. And Dusty Baker, he's going to let you be who you are. He's not going to try to change you. He's going to put you in the best situation to be at your best every day. And I have so much respect and love for the guy. He's one of those managers. You've heard the old cliche and old saying, a player's manager. Okay, and I'm gonna explain to you what that is. A player's manager is a guy that, like I said, puts you in the best situations, gives you days off here and there. He's gonna let you know 3 or 4 days ahead of time when your day off is coming, so you can prepare whatever with your family or whatnot. And he's always got your back. And he reminds me of a Terry Francona, same type of guy. Tito Francona and Dusty Baker came from the same school, the old school of baseball. Not saying that he's not going to say he's better, but the thing about him, he's going to work with you on every situation. And that's what a good manager does. He manages the players that he has. He knows how to bring the best out of each one of those guys. And that's what I can appreciate about the man. And I listened to the interviews the other day. Alex Bregman was saying, hey, we love Dusty here. Dusty's done a great job. And that's what you hear everywhere he's gone. And that's the main thing about Dusty Baker, because he played the game the same way as he's managing the game.
Yeah.
Same kind of guy. And that's all you can expect from a good manager, is to have a great relationship with his players, the organization, the media, the fans, and that he has.
Yeah. And, just goes to show, we're talking about these analytics and everything. I just think a lot of it is just it's a lot of micromanaging. And with Dusty, the Astros, they're letting him just do his job. They're letting him do what he needs to do. They trust him. They let him just go to work, instead of, being on his, over on his back all the time saying, oh, you got to start this guy here. And it's like, you're not going to tell Dusty Baker that. My goodness. I got to say, after watching these 2 championship series, the playoffs in baseball, it's just a crapshoot. You never know. It's like, one team could look just phenomenal, and all of a sudden this other team they just got your number, somehow. I mean, the Astros, though, there is just something about this Astros team. Now, sure, the Yankees offense was a bit cold, but every single time the Yankees made some kind of a mistake, error in the field or whatever, the Astros just took advantage of it. And that to me is something, I'm sure there is a stat somewhere for it, but that is just something a good team does, right? They see an opportunity and they take it. It just felt like they just handled this Yankee team like it was nothing. It felt like, some of these games were pretty close, but it never felt close. It felt like the Astros, they just knew what they were doing. It's like they just had a game plan,
You're absolutely right about that. As an opposing team, you feel like you can't make a mistake because the Astros will counter on your mistakes. And that's exactly what a good team does. You make that mistake, they're going to make a move on you and make you pay for it. And that's what they've done this whole playoff season this year. And I tell you what, doesn't it seem like the World Series is starting later? I mean,
yeah. I think this is definitely
like
a late
week
start.
off.
Yeah. And I'm going to be honest with you. I do think, if we're kind of just going, not looking at numbers or anything, we've seen so many times hot teams, and then they have a bit of a layoff, and all of a sudden they go cold. And when it, in the Phillies, I worry about that lineup a little bit. They were smacking the ball against the Phillies. And I'm not just saying looking at what, the runs they were putting up. If you just watched the bat coming off it felt like every fly ball they hit, you just thought okay, is that a home run? Like everything, the bat speed, the exit velocities were, it just looked ridiculous. Like every ball they hit was just hard.
I tell you what, Hopkins and Real Muto, man, those guys.
Oh my God. Yeah. Schwarber, Harper, amazing moment. But I just wonder, man, is that going to go a little cold? And this Astros team, they're just steady Eddie. They play their game. They know how to win. They're just playing well consistently. But to me, I'm not worried about them going cold. Because they're just so good every day, and it's like the Phillies, they kind of felt like they had momentum there. And the starting pitching for the Astros is just phenomenal. I watched that bullpen. Everyone's talking about, Verlander and Christian Javier and Framber Valdez against that Yankee series. The bullpen for the Astros was so underrated in that series. Like they're coming in. Brian Abreu came in against Giancarlo Stanton, 99 miles an hour on the corner, and Stanton just watched it. It was a 3-1 count, 2 straight fastballs. He just watched him. He's like, you couldn't even do anything with him. And it's like, this Astros team is no joke. I just think they got to win this one. They had a tough one last year.
They're doing it without a lefty in the bullpen also.
That's crazy. It's like all these righties, and it's like and one thing also about the Astros is you have Alvarado in the Phillies bullpen. He's a lefty. The Astros are so good against lefties. They were the second best team this year against lefties. And man, I don't know. I'm going Astros. I think the Astros, I think 5 or 6 games. I think 6 max. I think this Astros team is good.
I can't say that the layoff is going to hurt because I think the Astros played the next night, which was Monday.
Yes.
Yeah. So they're both going to have, 5 or 6 days off to get that rotation set, get everyone a little breather. Their Astros are having a little home cooking at home, started off at home. Yeah, I mean, if I were a betting man, I would definitely, lean toward the Astros. I know a lot of people, they talk about, okay, the favorites have not been very good this season, but the Astros were the favorite as well, and they've been handling their business 7-0 so far.
Yeah, and that's another thing. You haven't even lost. Well, it's going to be a fun one. By the time we're back next week, we could have a winner in the World Series by that point. We'll just have to wait and see where it's at next week, and we'll talk about it next week. But Ellis, man, it's a good episode here. We talked about some good free agents. It looks like we have a bit of an idea of what the Red Sox at least need to look towards when it comes to free agency. Ellis, any last words before we get out of here, my friend?
I tell you what, let's just look forward to having a great World Series. And as far as the Red Sox, I think it's going to be very interesting that they went down to the Dominican Republic to talk to Rafael, wish him a happy birthday, brought him a nice cake and everything else,
Man, I wish my job did that for me. That'd be nice.
Yeah, no doubt. But you know what? I think this is definitely going to be a great off season for them, and it's going to be a lot of work in that front office, and I think they're going to be able to do it. There's a lot of great free agents that are available, and the Red Sox aren't too far off as far as what they have already. So with a couple of new additions, I think they can be exactly where they want to be next season.
I agree. I think we're going to see typical Chaim Bloom work his magic. He's going to find some diamonds in the rough. He's going to sign some guys. He's going to be like, who the heck is that guy? And then he's going to end up being someone like a Matt Strahm in the bullpen from this past year. He'll find some guys, and I'm sure there will be some frustration with some things, like there always is among Red Sox fans. It always happens every single offseason. Bogaerts, that's going to be big. I'm going to say it one more time. I hope they get him signed. It's just giving me John Lester vibes. I don't know. I hope it doesn't. I hope they look at what happened with that and they don't do it again. So
there you go.
But yeah, it's going to be fun, man. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we're going to have plenty to talk about this offseason. But like you said, let's enjoy this World Series. It's going to be a fun one. And, but yeah. All righty, everyone. Thank you for coming out tonight for this episode. If you're listening to this on Spotify, Google, Apple, wherever, thank you for tuning in. And tune in for next week's episode. Everyone, we're going to get out of here. Have yourself a great night, and we'll talk to you next time.
See you later.